Ever feel like you're drowning in a sea of marketing tools trying to keep your business running smoothly? What if you could simplify it all with one platform? That's where Go High Level comes in, your all-in-one sales and marketing solution built for small businesses like you. In fact, Go High Level has over 1 million users just like you. With Go High Level, you can capture leads, automate your prospect and client journeys, quickly and efficiently build stunning websites, sales pages, and sales funnels. Imagine managing your CRM, email, SMS, and funnels without duct taping a dozen tools together. Plus, their unlimited plan lets you add as many contacts and users as you need, no hidden fees. We've been using Go High Level for over a year now and absolutely love it. In fact, Profit First Nation is also powered by Go High Level. Ready to level up? Start your Profit First Nation extended 30-day free trial today at www.gohighlevel.com/Profit First Nation. That's www.gohighlevel.com/Profit First Nation. Streamline your workflow, impress your clients, and grow smarter, not harder.
Welcome to Profit First Nation, the official podcast for entrepreneurs who are operating their businesses in the zone of permanent profitability. I'm Mike Michalowicz, the author of Profit First, and now here's your Profit First Nation guide, Daniel Mulvey.
Welcome to another episode of Profit First Nation. Today is one of those episodes where we go all in on making you a great leader who builds an unstoppable team. And, we really kind of focus in again on that team aspect of things. So today's episode is titled 3X the function, not the title. All right. What does 3X the function mean? Well, we talk about this, that we need to 3X and have that 3X return on payroll. So if you're paying someone $50,000 a year, you need a 3X return on that payroll that you're paying them to have an impact on the revenues of your business. And ideally, 3X is great, but if you could get to 4X, even better. So we want to 3X the function of the business. And sometimes it's really not about the title. We tend to get stuck in the title and we tend to think, oh, we need a marketing person. We need a controller. And you have to really, really be careful about the expectations when you use those kind of titles. Because that doesn't necessarily mean that's the function that you need in the business. What really matters is the function that you need in the business. So today we're going to talk about, again, how to figure out 3Xing your return on payroll. The second topic that we're going to cover today is don't start with the title, but we're going to do that number 2. And then the third topic that we're going to really get deep into is defining the key responsibilities with success metrics. And so it's kind of like a little bit of reverse engineering on how then you get to that 3X return on payroll. But you kind of need to start with that 3X return on payroll because what you're willing to pay and the impact that you need that person to have on the business really becomes the primary thing in Profit First of, can you afford to hire this person to do this role in your business? And so, some ways to kind of like figure out like where you need to be and such is using Glassdoor, and just Googling. I mean, just straight up Googling, what is the average salary for a controller in the state of Utah, for example? Sometimes roles can vary the salaries by state or city. And, these employees today are pretty savvy in, wanting to make sure that they understand what their worth is and what their value is. And, the fancier title, people have higher expectations for payroll. And so when you start looking at, let's just say, okay, a controller in the state of Utah makes $125,000 a year. That means that I need that person to have a $375,000 impact on revenue. Now, Danielle, how is that possible? I mean, a controller works internally in the business, isn't working necessarily with clients, et cetera. And, that is true. And it has to come into factor of things. If how much would it cost you to outsource those services? So, sometimes you have to look at things from the perspective of maybe it's cheaper to outsource the services than to hire someone internally for the role. So you start by kind of understanding, if you think that you need a controller, what does a controller pay? And then 3Xing that salary and then figuring out, okay, now what can I have them do in my company that would give me this 3X return? Or am I better off not having a full-time controller who I have to pay $125,000 a year to, who I need to 3X their payroll number to make it a good return versus, maybe hiring a part-time controller and changing the function of what I thought a controller needs to do and bring on an accounting and payroll manager instead at $70,000 a year, and then pay a part-time controller less than $2,000 a month, so $24,000 a year, to come in and be the check and balance against someone who I hire internally at $70,000 a year to be the accounting and payroll manager. This is a true story. Working with one of our members of the All In community, and they called us in a panic on Thursday because their current controller, I'm saying this if you're not watching it on YouTube with quote marks, their current controller who makes $70,000 a year and was promoted from internally was gave their notice and said, my wife was made an incredible job offer. It's going to force us to move. And so I'm going to leave. And, now that I'm kind of looking at things and stuff, I realize that I probably wouldn't stay anyway, because if I'm a controller, I'm not getting paid what controllers should get paid. And the person's right. But the disconnect is that you can't start with the title, because the problem is that the organization gave the person the title of controller, but when you look at what their job functions are really that of an accounting and payroll manager, not a controller. So you have to be very careful about, what you call someone, because when you give someone a fancy title, that breeds entitlement. That's why title is in both of those words, title and entitlement. If you're going to call someone, a fancy title and you're going to call them a controller, well, they're going to look and see this is great. This is way better than an accounting and payroll manager. And now if I'm a controller, if my company has anointed me as a controller, well, then I need to get paid what controllers make, which in this case would be, he's making $70,000 now. The average controller in the same market makes $125,000. I mean, that's a $55,000. Sorry, I was a little slow on the math. A $55,000 increase in salary. I mean, of course you would want that and such. But is this person really a controller? No. Does this person really have the experience and is doing the functions of a traditional controller? No, they're doing the job of an accounting and payroll manager. The company's just got bigger, so it seemed like, when I was talking to the owner, his logic was, we're now a $15 million firm. So when we're this big, we need a controller. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. But you need an accounting and payroll manager first, doing that job day in, day out, and then maybe bring in a part-time controller. So you have that check and balance over that accounting department. And I shared with him, that's exactly what we do in our construction material supply businesses. And, what my dad does in his business is you have the day-to-day person who is the accounting and payroll manager. And, then the controller comes in after the month closes and officially closes the month and reviews everything, reconciles everything. Again, that great check and balance to make sure that, the left hand knows what the right hand is doing and vice versa, instead of giving all the control and power to one person in your organization. I mean, listen, this is how fraud, waste, and abuse happens in your organization when you give someone a big title and you just step away and they have no one that is checking their work. So again, the idea here was that if they're paying someone to be the accounting and payroll manager $70,000 a year, and then they bring on a part-time controller, and at the most that part-time controller is going to be $2,000 a month. That's $24,000. Now they're at $94,000, and they're still coming in less than if they were to hire at the market rate a full-time controller. Now, when we look at salaries, just a little caveat here that again, it should commensurate with the title and such. So you have to kind of really get in on the right title. You're trying to make sure that, the title that you're using, you can 3x that and such, and you don't want to overinflate someone's title in the organization. So for example, title matters too, to some certain degrees. So when it comes to Indeed, you are typically putting the title of the position in the job posting title. And so that is going to attract people that are looking for that job, like a controller. What's interesting is sometimes you may not want to use that job title in the post. So here's an example. For us, we hire recent college graduates with a math degree for the business side of healthcare, for the job of a claims examiner. But I do not use the term or the job title claims examiner in my job post title, because I do not want to attract people who are current claims examiners at other insurers. Okay. I want people who are a blank slate, who I can train, and they're not bringing any baggage with them. They're not saying, well, this is how we did it at our other firm and such, because it doesn't matter. You need to do our system. You need to do our process. This is long-term care. This is not auto. This is not medical. This is not dental. It's apples to oranges. So the title that we use in recruiting people are that they are a recent college graduate with a math degree or actuarial science for the business side of healthcare. Because these people are, most people who've graduated with a math degree have realized, what do I do with a math degree? I don't want to be a teacher. Some of them have said, they've taken some actuarial science classes and they're interested in that. And our position as a claims examiner actually is a good starting point to someone who wants to go down the path of being an actuary. And, there's opportunity to kind of see the under the hood of the claims process system and such. And then, they've got time and can study for their exams and such, and then get their actuarial license and everything. So, it's kind of interesting here and such. But if our member would have posted the job for a controller and said, we're paying $70,000 a year, guess what? They would have gotten like hardly any applicants at all, because it's not really a controller position, and it is paying almost 50% less than what the going rate is for a controller. So just to reemphasize things here, what you need to do is you need to be in line with what the function is in the business and what you can afford to pay. And then what you can afford to pay, can that person with the functions that they're doing be producing a 3x return on their payroll in your organization? I think there's something else interesting too. A lot of people, and again, another member story from our group. He reached out to us. We had helped them hire a variety of different types of engineers and such for their organization. But as they were growing and they, kind of started a new line of business in terms of the services that they were offering, they were like, well, gosh, this is great. We could really use a marketing person. And, when I was just like, I don't think you need a marketing person. Let's talk about this. And when we talked about it and we talked about like what he was really wanting this individual to do, I said, that's not a marketing person. That's a salesperson. And, when I called him on it and we, talked about the differences and such, it was like a V8 moment. He's like, oh my gosh, it totally is a salesperson role for a small company. So I also want to challenge you here too. If you guys need sales, and you're a small business, I don't think you need marketing unless you're like online sales. If you're especially a service-based business, or other thing, you need sales people, not necessarily marketing people. A great salesperson will drive your sales harder, faster than a marketing person will. Okay. I'd say a marketing person would be, taking a little bit more of the passive route. You might need that at some point, but, I'm going to be honest, our construction material supply firm, we don't need a marketing person. If we grow by adding salespeople to our organization, not marketing people. Okay. Salespeople are the ones that really drive the sales, especially if you're in a services-based business. If you're a service-based business and you're getting lead referrals, for example, on Yelp, then, again, a salesperson is the one that needs to be responding to the inquiries and the quotes, et cetera, and such. Someone with that sales mindset, not a marketing person. Okay. Sales, sales, sales. That is what you need. We all need sales. All right. Now let's get to number 3. So we've covered that you need to be, designing these roles and understanding what you're paying based off of, what is commensurate with the same responsibilities or job titles in the marketplace. And then you're 3Xing it. And then we're going to say maybe don't start with the title. Start with like what you need the role to be and such, and don't overinflate the title, because that overinflating of the title breeds entitlement. If someone's been working for you 10 years and you've been calling them a controller for 10 years, but they've really been an accounting manager or payroll manager, then, if they move across country, and can no longer work for you and they need to find a job and they say, well, I'm a controller, they're going to be hard pressed because they don't really have the experience to justify them going after controller jobs. Okay. So we want to be fair to our employees and we don't want them to be misled in any fashion just by giving them a fancy title and making them feel good, because they'll also start to develop some possible resentment too when you think about like this individual who's leaving this controller position. He realized, gosh, I should be making $128,000 a year and you're paying me $70,000 a year. That's not cool, but it's hard to explain to someone, well, you're not really a controller. We just call you a controller. You see where I'm going with this? Dangerous, dangerous territory. So let's not go down that path is my advice. Okay. So now we are at number 3. And number 3 for today, in terms of 3Xing the function and not the title, is that you need to define the key responsibilities with success metrics. That's how you really start to produce this 3X return on payroll. Is every individual in your organization, I don't care what the title is at this point necessarily, needs to have 3 to 5 key responsibilities with success metrics. So you're quantifying with a number, a percentage, a date, a dollar sign, whatever, what they are doing to be successful for that key responsibility. And those 3 to 5 key responsibilities should be driving the revenue in your business, or creating opportunity for the revenue. Someone should be doing something that's going to cost you less for them to do it than have to outsource it. Your admin should be taking things off your plate at $25 an hour for their salary versus you, who's worth $300 an hour doing that work. Does that make sense? That's a cost savings. That is helping to, decrease expenses and take something off your plate because you're more valuable for your time doing other things than doing what you can offload to an admin for $25 an hour. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and I'm happy to share. We've hired a marketing person to help support us with Profit First Nation and All In, since the book is coming out, and we are just buried in sort of marketing assets right now that we have. So we've hired Ashton, and Ashton is going to be joining us next week. And I'm just going to kind of map out for you her key responsibilities. So her key responsibility number 1 is to map out social media planner for Profit First Nation and Danielle Mulvey / All In, and review with Danielle and the team 40 days prior to the planned month to brainstorm content needs with the team. Compile, develop, and schedule all social media posts per the media planner by the 20th of the month prior. The measure of success is that we're increasing followers 10% month over month. So, we're not just doing this for giggles. We are, making sure that the content that is going out there is attracting an increase of 10% month over month in new followers. Ashton's second key responsibility is to map out the email marketing, inclusive of our newsletter, blog, and resources for Profit First Nation and Danielle Mulvey / All In, and review with the team 30 days prior to the planned month to brainstorm content needs with the team, compile, develop, and schedule all outbound email marketing by the Tuesday prior to the week it pushes out. Measure of success, we are going to grow our paid members by 10% month over month with that email marketing push. And then key responsibility number 3, it's a little bit shorter. Review at least 2 hours of Zoom recordings per day, at least 3 days per week, to pull relevant content that can be used for marketing and/or training purposes. The measure of success, a minimum of 10 to 20 total minutes of usable content pulled per every hour of Zoom. So we've quantified what success looks like. If we're not increasing things 10% month over month, then we're not doing a very good job in terms of the content that we're putting out. It's not attracting more people. So how do we improve that? And we measure our success by meeting that metric of that 10% increase month over month. And then, if she's going to review 2 hours of a Zoom video, and such, then, we want to net 10 to 20 minutes of usable content for that Zoom time. So it's very clear what the expectations are for the role, and it's very clear on how her value is going to have a positive impact on our revenue, because the more followers we have means that we're going to, eventually convert those followers into members of our various programs. All right. And then I've got another to share with you. And that would be the key responsibilities for an accounting and payroll manager. So an example here would be proactively follow up on AR and complete remote check deposits upon receipt. And the success metric is the AR aging is under 5% of revenue for this client. That's how we're going to measure them being proactive and following up on the AR and completing the check deposits. Then we are going to keep track and update marketing, sales, and all other internal metric sheets by 12 p.m. on Mondays. And that is a success metric. If it's done, you're going to provide the metric reports by 12 p.m. on Monday. Another key responsibility is that the that the financial records are current each week by 10 a.m. on Fridays and on the 2nd, 10th, and 25th of each month. That is how they are going to, be held accountable to being successful in managing the financials of that organization. So a lot of great stuff, a lot of heavy and deep stuff here. And it really is about having intention. All right. And it's really, again, about you guys as the business owner, as the leader of your organization, going all in on your people and all in on your leadership. And when you take this time to, really understand what is the role of this person, what are their 3 to 5 key responsibilities, how does that person measure their own success in fulfilling the key responsibilities that are driving the 3x return on their payroll, that is when, you will attract those type of people, those 5-star employees who will go all in on your organization. You have to go all in first. As a leader, your primary job is to lead your team, to show them where you guys are going, show them the vision, lay out the strategy, and then attract those people, give them clear understanding of what's expected for them. And when they have that, a 5-star employee will go all in on you. And that, my friends, is how you build unstoppable teams. Thank you so much for joining us today for this special edition. Episodes ending in 4 and 9 are the episodes where we go deep on the topic of All In, Mike's next book that is coming out January 2nd, 2024. We've got a lot of exciting programming and just content for you. Even an app is coming down the pipe for you to stay connected with everything. So we look forward to bringing you that. Pre-order your book now at Amazon, and cheers to another profitable day, my entrepreneurial friend.
Thanks for tuning in to the Profit First Nation podcast. We hope you found today's episode valuable and that it's inspired you to take action towards achieving permanent profitability in your business. If you want to learn more about how to implement Profit First in your business and connect with a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, be sure to visit us at profitfirstnation.com to download our how-to guides and resources. Remember, permanent profitability is within your reach, and we're here to support you every step of the way. So let's do Profit First right together.
Profit First Nation website, related podcasts, and videos are provided for general information purposes only and do not constitute accounting, legal, tax, or other professional advice. Visitors should not act upon the content or information found here without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional.
Hey, this is Ro. And if you're a business owner struggling with hiring or just tired of doing it yourself, I highly recommend the Build Your Dream Team Secret Podcast series. There are 7 episodes packed with real stories from founders who've cracked the code on hiring, built high-performing teams, and finally got out of the day-to-day grind. My favorite part? It's not fluff. It's systems, strategy, and results. Text DREAM to 55444. That's DREAM to 55444 to check it out. You'll thank me later.